Today we are looking at the interior of this 2025 Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro. So let's see what $80,000 gets you on the inside of the TRD Pro model. While the TRD Pro trim level might not be recognized as the most luxurious, it is still one of the most expensive Sequoias you can buy, so I still have quite a few expectations for it on the interior. The door panel is going to be made of basically the same material from the top to the bottom. The top part is bigger so that you can rest your arm on it, and it's going to be made of soft touch plastic. You get some more plastic and red contrast stitching through the middle. Your buttons are going to be made of matte plastic. You get memory seats through the middle area. You're also going to find soft touch plastic on your armrest, but leather would be nice. And you're going to find storage through the middle area and storage and 2 bottle holders at the bottom. The running boards that have TRD branding make it much easier to get inside. And the seats are going to be made of this leatherette material with red contrast stitching. You're going to find some camouflage trim through the middle area, and you're going to find TRD Pro branding at the top. You can also get these seats in red. They will have 10-way power adjusting, heating, and ventilation. Now that we're inside, we have a lot of things to talk about. Let's start down here toward the left. There are a lot of controls down here, including a control for your heated steering wheel, AC 120-volt outlets, your odometer, trip resets, gauge cluster brightness, fuel tank release, and your auto high beams. This button right here says TRD light bar. You can only turn on the TRD light bar when the high beams are on. You saw that earlier in my headlight demonstration. It is a very cool looking light bar, but just make sure that you don't blind anybody. As far as the steering wheel is concerned, it is massive. This is way bigger than anything I have seen. There's TRD branding down here. It is heated, perforated all the way around with a red accent up there. All of the buttons are going to be in matte black, so it's not going to attract any fingerprints. The gauge cluster is going to be completely digital, but for being a digital gauge cluster, I feel like they could have done more on the customization side. You can go through all of these, but this is kind of like the old Toyota gauge cluster as far as customization is concerned. The new design, like what's in the Grand Highlander, Crown Signia, regular Highlander, it all has a lot more customization, and when you change drive modes, it has a really cool animation. As far as materials are concerned, this is not going to be top-notch. There's going to be soft touch plastic all through this area. I guess some darkened faux aluminum or forged carbon fiber. There are red accents on the Toyota Heritage badge. More of that faux aluminum trim down here. You can open up that for your cup holders. And then you have some piano black down here. What I like is that they didn't put a lot of piano black, because people that are going to be driving these large SUVs and trucks, they don't want to see any of that. As far as storage is concerned, there's plenty of it in the Sequoia. In the center console here, you can lift this up for just a little bit of space, maybe a good place to put pens or coins. There's an area in front of it, so you can store whatever you want there, or you can pull it back for easy access into the center console. But you can open up this whole thing with buttons on the top of each armrest. You can open up this whole thing for this massive amount of space. I'm not completely sure if it is class leading, because you know the Tahoe and Yukon have those power sliding center consoles, so that might have something to do with it. But this looks quite different from the 2024 Sequoia. I don't remember this being here. I remember this just being a different level. I like that they have different levels, but that can be strange for some people. There are coin holders right here and 2 USBs. Of course, there's going to be a wireless phone charger and a slot for another phone. I feel like they could have put another wireless phone charger, but I guess it is saving money on their end. Also, underneath of here, you're going to find 2 very large cup holders. Climate controls are still physical for 2025, and that is amazing. You can use the screen if you choose, but having this makes me happy. You have heated and ventilated seats, 3 stages of both for the driver and the passenger side. There's going to be tri-zone climate on every Sequoia, so the driver and the passenger can control their own temperature. You also can control the fan speed right here, and you got the defrost right there. And also, if the occupants in the back don't know how to use the climate control, or they can't reach it or something like that, you can control it right here. If you're wondering where the trailer brake controller is, it's going to be down in this area right under the start-stop button. Now let's move on to the infotainment system. The Sequoia is running Toyota's latest audio multimedia system, and it is 14 inches, the largest in Toyota's lineup. Lexus first debuted the system, and then Toyota adopted it in the Tundra and the Sequoia. What I really like about this system is that first, it runs wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And because it's 14 inches, all the icons are supersized, so it's really hard to miss any of them. Another cool thing is that you can be wearing gloves and still use the screen. That was a feature that's first debuted on the Tundra, and because the Sequoia is based on the Tundra, they decided to adopt it here too. This can be very helpful because it can be cold out there, especially here in Michigan. And the last thing you want to do is have to take your gloves on and off just to touch the screen. Of course, we can't forget about the backup camera. When you put the car in reverse, that's going to bring up a very high resolution backup camera. You get active trajectory, and one thing I really have to point out is that the car is red. Fortunately, you can change that if that bothers you. There are many different angles for the backup camera, including front wheel shots, back wheel shots, a front view, you name it. Now let's take a look at the safety system. So I'm going to pull up to my tripod here. It's going to start making some noise, and there is an alert right there. And it's going to get higher and higher, louder and louder, and faster as I get closer to the tripod. And I'm just about there. So yeah, it makes quite the ruckus when you get close to an object. When you put the car in drive, there is going to be a camera that comes up. And one thing I did notice is that the car doesn't turn clear when you start moving backward or forward like it does in the Crown Signia and the Grand Highlander. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Up top, you're going to find a digital rear view mirror, and you're going to find a large panoramic sunroof. But the back portion of it is going to be a little bit blocked because of that giant roof rack. Now let's take a look at the front passenger side and see what the front passenger is going to get. On the door panel, you're going to find basically the same one as the driver's side. You get all your buttons in matte plastic, and basically the rest of the door panel in matte plastic. There is plenty of storage. The seats are going to have the same camouflage trim, and they will also be heated and ventilated. You get TRD Pro branding at the top and red contrast stitching. These seats are going to have 8 ways of power adjusting instead of 10. Your experience sitting inside the Sequoia is going to vary from each trim level. Some trim levels have wood, some trim levels have aluminum, some of them have plastic. This one has the large Toyota Heritage badge with red accents in front of you. I don't know what's behind that. It could be forged carbon fiber or faux aluminum, but I really don't know what that is. Inside the glove box, you're going to find a pretty good amount of space. It's also going to be divided up, so you're going to have a shelf in case you don't want everything to be on top of each other. There's going to be a grab handle here, which I think is going to be helpful. Moving on to the second row, you're going to find a pretty good amount of space and amenities. Starting with the seats, you're also going to find camouflage trim back here and red contrast stitching. You're not going to find TRD Pro branding, however. On the door panel, you're going to find pretty much everything in plastic. I like that they still have the top part a little bit bigger because that is going to be nice for people that want to rest their arm up there. There's going to be sunshades, which will be helpful for keeping the sun out on sunny days. There's going to be red contrast stitching, and the TRD Pro rock sliders are going to be helpful for getting in. In the back, you're going to find a pretty good amount of legroom, even though it is about an inch or two less than the competition like the Chevrolet Tahoe. One thing that they could add for the next generation is sliding seats, because you cannot customize how much space the second row and the third row has. There is going to be a seat back pocket on the back of each seat, and there is going to be felt lining on the inside of them. In the middle is going to be your third zonal climate control, where you can control the fan speed and the temperature. Just keep in mind that with the Platinum, 1794 edition, and the Capstone, you can get heated and ventilated seats, which is not available on the TRD Pro. You also get 2 USB ports and a household-style outlets. Above all of that are going to be 2 cup holders. Now let's move on to the third row. Third row access is pretty easy, as you're just going to pull this lever and let the seat go out of the way. They need to find a better design for this because Chevrolet has the same method for folding the seat out of the way and they still can make the seat slide. Overall, the third row is not a bad place to be in the Sequoia. The legroom situation is pretty good, coming in at about 34 inches. The thigh support is not going to be amazing because the hybrid battery is right underneath the floor, so that is going to compromise your thigh support. You can recline the seats by this button over here, and you'll find 2 cup holders, a plastic armrest, and a USB-C port. A class exclusive feature on the Sequoia is going to be the third row sunshades, which are actually very useful in the summer when it's very sunny. Let's move right into the cargo area. There are many ways to open up the trunk in the Sequoia, but for today I'm just going to use the key fob. One notable feature is that you can still pop the rear glass. It is not power operated, but I still like that it is there. The cargo area is going to be affected significantly by the hybrid battery. To the right, you'll find an LED light and an AC 120-volt outlet. The first aid kit is going to Velcro nicely onto the back of the third row seats. Speaking of the third row seats, you can slide the third row 6 inches back and forth. That is going to affect the third row legroom, but if the passenger is not very tall, it's not going to matter. Toyota's solution to the Sequoia's limited cargo area is going to be the shelf system. There are 3 different notches that you can put this shelf on. The first notch is going to match the height of the raised cargo floor. The second notch is going to match the height of the third row seats since they do not fold flats. I will get into that a little bit later. The third notch of the shelf system is going to be helpful for anybody that wishes to access their cargo through the rear window. The shelf system is a very clever solution to what is a pretty big problem in a full-sized SUV, but it does not seem like it can hold anything very heavy, so just keep that in mind. The third row seats are going to be powered, which is not uncommon in the segment, but I will say that they are pretty slow. Let's talk dimensions really quick. Behind the third row, you're going to get as little as 11 cubic feet or as much as 22 cubic feet. The 22 cubic feet is on par with other competitors like the Ford Expedition and Chevrolet Tahoe. Behind the second row, you're going to get 49 cubic feet, which is going to be quite small compared to the rest of the segments. The maximum amount of space that you can get in a Toyota Sequoia is going to be 88 cubic feet, which is quite small compared to the rest of the competition, and it's even worse than the Grand Highlander, a smaller sibling to the Sequoia. The Sequoia is unimpressive in the cargo area, and I will say that if you wish to haul around a lot of cargo, the Sequoia is not going to be a smart choice, especially considering that there is no extended wheelbase version. To close up the trunk, you can kick your foot underneath the car, or you can also press the standard button.